With questions about justice front and center in a heated nationwide debate about race, we're bringing you behind closed doors for an intimate look at what that means for families. What do we say to our own children? What are they learning on the streets, in school, from us? Two dads invited me into these personal discussions as part of our week-long look at race, justice in America. Two families living only miles apart.
Hello.
Both with dedicated fathers.
I had a math test.
How do you think you did?
I think I did pretty good.
Each with a 10-year-old boy.
You're a nerd.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
Yeah, just like me.
Yeah.
Both middle class, married, college educated.
Hey, remember this?
But when it comes to the issue of race, these fathers and sons live in different worlds.
Have you ever felt like people treated you differently because you were black?
Kind of in a way.
Kind of in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard kids being racist.
Sure.
And they get in trouble right away. It's definitely big in school because kids just start messing around.
It's a chilly Wednesday in suburban Philadelphia. Daniel Kay and his son Aiden are planning the final touches of their favorite winter tradition, Christmas lights. Lots of them.
We've got
Christmas
trees, mini Christmas trees, a big one in my bedroom, but there's a twist.
What is that?
We're Jewish.
Yeah.
Every snowman here is my mom.
Aiden is bright, an old soul.
Down here, this is actually handcrafted.
10 going on 30. But what's happening now across America? The protests, the anger after the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner has this little boy asking big questions, questions his father struggles to answer.
He's African American, and people just, for some strange reason, don't think that they're equals.
There's that part of me that looks at him and sees him as this innocent little boy, and I hate the thought of having to have conversations like this, but there are people who are living this.
The Kays live in Abington, a predominantly white Philadelphia suburb. Daniel's always told Aiden he has nothing to fear from police, but now he wants to teach him that for many people, that's not the case.
Dad, what's going on in Ferguson?
Do you talk about that in school? Like, did any of the kids ever say anything?
Yeah, it's been brought up. Our teacher brought it up once, but every once in a while a kid will bring it up, and then everyone will start saying their opinion, and then the teacher kind of has to calm it down.
You can't say, you know, all police are this or all police are that. You know, they're our friends and they work really hard to protect our community, but, you know, you have to be honest that there are problems.
You know who Eric Garner is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Eric Garner?
A person who was choked to death by a police officer.
Good morning. This is Solomon Jones on the 900 AM W.
For Solomon Jones, a popular radio host, the race talk is a running dialogue with his son, Solomon III.
When I look at my son, I see him as this AB student. He's soft-spoken, he wants to be a scientist, and I just don't want my son to have to go through some of the things that I've been through and some of the things that I've seen other people go through.
Young Solomon is quiet, studious, not a troublemaker. But his father worries in the heat of a moment, that won't matter.
If you get stopped by the police, even if you feel like they stopped you for no reason, like harassing you, just be polite, just get out of the situation so you can come home. And then we can file charges against them later.
Solomon wants to make sure his son is safe, that his face doesn't end up on a poster like this. Nearly 2/3 of blacks say race played a major factor in the decision not to indict the police officers who killed Michael Brown and Eric Garner, while only 1 in 6 whites call race a major factor. So why the divide? We wanted to hear the conversation behind closed doors, the safety of home, black and white, father and son.
Certainly when I was a boy, right, your parents, in my case my mom, you had like the sex talk, right?
Yeah.
But in my house, we also had the race talk.
Right.
Do you guys ever have that conversation here?
No, we don't, except when something happens.
I completely understand it. With the thing at Ferguson, I think African American people would be scared that a policeman would do that again. But I think that after this Ferguson thing, I think they should trust the police still. They shouldn't be like, I'm never going to call a policeman if I have an emergency.
Right.
I think they should at least try calling them.
Statistically speaking, young black males are 21 times more likely to be shot dead by police than their white counterparts.
But you saw what happened with Eric Garner. When that happened, how did it make you feel?
It made me feel sad because they already had it on tape, and the people who examined the body counted it as a homicide, and the policeman didn't get in trouble.
Why do you think that happened to Eric Garner?
Because the policeman hated, African Americans.
Do you really think that's why he did that?
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of good police officers. The problem is that when we have bad police officers, we can't get them out. They have to be rooted out because they're a danger to me as a black man, they're a danger to my son as a black boy.
These men are close to their sons and want them to become the best of men. But even for them, the issue of race leads to challenging discoveries about each other. Like when young Solomon told his father about the moment a teacher took a classmate's word over his.
Was the girl black too?
Mm-mm.
Was she white? Do you think that's why they believed her and didn't believe you?
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Angry.
It makes me feel angry too.
Your eyes are watering.
It makes me sad. Because you don't want your kids to go through the things that you've gone through. You know, I don't want to see my son go through any pain.
With a story from his own childhood, Daniel surprises Aiden. A bitter memory. Prejudice runs generations deep.
When I was little, I was at a friend's house and I overheard the father telling him to get that dirty Jew out of my house. And I hadn't been exposed to much of that, but that moment was, I felt in danger. I felt, I was afraid.
Had you ever heard that story before?
No, actually. You've probably told it to me, but no, I don't remember it.
In your life, have you ever been made to feel less than because you're Jewish?
Not really. Usually I'm like the only Jew in the class, but they're like, oh, cool.
What's your takeaway of having to have those kinds of conversations with your son?
I think it's part of being a father. Although it's an uncomfortable conversation, it's a necessary conversation.
Two fathers, two sons, for whom race in America is shaded by the color of their skin. If there is a clear solution, they all agree. It starts with a conversation.
I think that my role for them is to prepare them for real life. And real life for African Americans, somebody said it ain't no crystal stair. If you can't accept that racism still exists, if you can't accept that it is affecting what happens in the lives of black and brown men and women, then you can't solve it.
We have to be honest. You can't keep sweeping these things under the rug, and pretend just because, I'm white, then racism doesn't happen. So we do things differently. I think more people should.